This is Short Hammer. It is the 27th of September, 2020, and this is Trading Zones. We're taking a look at the MES on the 4 hour. And if we look at the chart, last week was an interesting week. We didn't get the advancement above the levels that we mentioned, but this is what I'm looking at for this week. So we're below the 3286 area, right? And if we go back, look to the left, the last time we were there, we did have this little pull down here right around the 3190s. Buyers pulled us back up. A little bit of selling back up. We see this little seesaw action here until we popped that 3286. And we had a nice little run that we went on all the way to the 3587. Okay. So right now we bounced off those 3190s, you can say, and we're back up at the 3286 area. The question is, can we advance above 3286? Can we catch a bid? And can we get a squeeze? That might happen. For me, I'm just going to wait and see. If we're over the 3286 and the buyers step in, I'm watching for 3329. Just looking at this candle structure here, right? If we could pop this area, let's see if we can get a run up into this next level, but we'll see. So let me do that. No, not that. Close that. I want to get this nice and big. Okay. So on this 4-hour chart on MES, what I'll be watching for this week if I am you is if we get over 3286.25, watch for the 3329.50. If we get over that, watch 3356, 3383, then 3424. Look to the left. I'll be looking at this candle structure on any of this. So if we pop over here, expect a little bit of turbulence right around 3330. Expect turbulence at 3356. If we don't get over 3286 and we begin to go back down to 3259, see if buyers step in. If they do not and we sell through that, then watch the 3220s. The 3220s, even though we did sort of push below, what we didn't see on the 4-hour chart any candles begin to form a bearish pattern below this level. When I say that, I mean here. So we had a dip below the 3286, right? And then the next was a dip into the 3259. We're seeing this bearish candlestick formation, this bearish pattern down into the 3220s. And when we get down to the 3220s, we're seeing that the sellers and the buyers have a disagreement here on price, and we begin to reverse, right? You see all these lower wicks. That's us. That's the market telling us that, hey, I'm not finding sellers down here, but I am finding a couple of buyers. People are believing that this is the bottom, and we begin to go back to the upside. So what we want to see is if this turns around and goes back down here, do we see bearish candlestick formations below the 3220s and an advancement down to the 3180s? We'll see. But that's what I'll be watching for this week. Play it line to line, play your levels, and you definitely get crystal clear entries on the intraday. And whatever you use to enter, some people use different EMA setups and crosses of different lines. That's fine. That's up to you. VWAPs, whatever you're using to get that prime entry. But when you see these horizontal lines of supply and demand, these are giving you your levels. Your actual entry point and how you execute on these, that's up to you based on what indicators that you use on your intraday for either intraday swings, scalps, or even multi-day swings and scalps. But these lines give you a great idea of where to hop in. And to be 100% transparent, these lines are kind of based on pivot points from the past, right? And I utilize Elisa's power of pivot script on my intraday, right? And just these lines are based on those levels. So, this week will be interesting, but definitely just watch your horizontal levels. That's all you have to do. Watch these horizontal levels. You see here what they've done, how price has reversed, how there's when you get to these lines, there is a disagreement on price, right, between the buyers and the sellers, and that's where you take your opportunity to, take a shot. So we'll see what happens. I'll be watching this. If when this opens, we gap up and we push above this 32.86, I'll be long and scaling out as we go into the 33.29. And if when we come in here, we have a rejection, then I'll be short watching for 32.59. That's how I take it. Over to the RTY. And if we remember, this is the 20th. This is where we were, right around 15/16s. And we see this bearish candlestick formations below, and we begin to sell, right? And drop right down into the 1453 area. And we did see bearish candlestick formations below the 1453 that made it seem as if we were going to go to 1416. But we kind of curved and had a nice little rebound here and a pull back up. And maybe potentially we're going to run back up into the 1500. We'll see. But for me, I'm going to leave the Russ alone. I will not be messing with this. Some people will, they see the 4 hour, they'll play this. But for me, if I'm looking to the left, let's see. Yeah, the advancement below here, I would have expected a little bit more downside once it broke this area. See that? This area is the 1453s. Then look here where you found support, right? So when we break that, I expect this to sell. So being that didn't, I don't like that. So I'm going to leave this alone because it's not doing what I would expect when, previous supply levels become demand when they break, and previous demand levels become supply when they break. And this is not obeying that in a way that I would like to see. And maybe this is just going to chop around and roll, or it's going to find buyers and squeeze. But I like when things get to a level when, based on previous candle structure and also supply demand lines, when they break below a line and the buyers or the sellers either keep it going or there's a clear reversal. So we'll see on the RTY. But to the upside, you do have the 1516s and the 1560s. And if we get above that, the 1612s. And to the downside, below 1453, we have 1416 and 1350. Let me pick this up because I am kind of taking my time on this. And sometimes people get a little bit bored when, I sort of get into the weeds a little bit on these levels. So I'm not going to do that. I am a supply demand nerd, and I love really getting into it when I see these levels and looking at the candlestick structure, but I won't do that. It's supposed to be quick. So if we remember, the 21st market opens, that's the beginning of the week. Rejection on to the downside. Look at this buying. Nice little trend here. Every time we touch that trend, this is on the 4 hour chart on Amazon, pushing to the upside. And then we sort of curved here, it dropped back down, but sort of buying it back up. What's our expectation? Well, if we look to the left, let's see. We had a flare down here. Right in that same area, buyer stepped in again, right? So what do we want to happen here? Technically, One, let's get rid of this trend line. It's no longer relevant. Well, it could be technically if they backtested, but I'm not going to be watching for that. Actually, I might. I'm gonna add that trend line back in there. Let's see. It's kind of steep, but we'll see. What we want to see here is, okay, if you're bullish, right? You want us to, and let me, okay, if you're bullish above this 3068 area, what you want to see is another bullish candle. You want this to be above this 3102-ish, 3100-ish. You want the next candle that comes in to be above that. And then you want us to squeeze up into this area around the 3140s. That's what you want if you're bullish. You want us to run from here up into 3193. If you're bearish, what you want to see is you want another rejection candle that does not really advance above this 3100 area. You want the next candle to be, even if it pushes up in here, you want it to, you don't want the candle to close above, right? You want that to sort of retrace back down to the 3068, and you want this bad boy to sell down into the 3020s. That's what you want. We'll see what happens. But to the upside, we've got 3193, then 3268. To the downside, we have 3068, 3020, 2950, then 2887. We'll see how this plays out. But these are the levels that we're watching. And on the 4 hour, you're watching to see if we could advance above the 3102, 3100-ish area, right around that area. You want to see if we can close above that and really get a squeeze. That's if you're bullish. So we'll see how this shakes out on Amazon. I believe they already announced Prime Day. I can't remember the date, but definitely check it. There's some fundamental stuff that you can look into on Amazon if you're looking for catalysts. And don't forget that their earnings, it looks to be around the 22nd of October. So we'll see how that shakes out. And we'll also see if this is a pre-earnings dip, right? That people are going to load up on and run this back through the top, or at least retest this top here. So we'll see how that shakes out on Amazon. But keep an eye on it, right? Because just like I had this, excuse me, just like I had this trend line here, someone could technically come back in here and say, hey, what about, because trend lines can be subjective. What about this? This is a trend line, right? Because this is a reversal, back test, first back test, right? Buying up. So if this breaks above this 3145 area, you'd wait for the next back test, and then you could buy that and sort of ride this up if that trend line holds. This is on the 4 hour, so that's interesting. So we'll see how that works. But keep an eye on Amazon. Interesting setup. Netflix is up next. So what's going on here with Netflix? So we have a line here at this looks to be 478-ish, 475-ish. I don't know why I have that different color in there. Okay, that's why. So it's 475. So let's look at the date, right? So this is where we opened in here. I like this to be so crystal clear. Pray everyone can see this as clearly as I can see this. Okay. So we pushed up around the 490s, right? And what you see here for multiple days is that on the 4 hour chart, we can't close above. We're rejecting the 490s. When you see that, you get short. Like you get short. Why? When you see all these upper wicks, what you do is you draw yourself a line right up in this bad boy here around 491. And okay, I'll say what I do personally. Let me be clear because people think that I'm tripping. Okay. So once I see this rejection, I'm short. That's multiple days, 3 days or 2 days, multiple days, or multiple, 4 hours, however you want to look at this. But we aren't advancing above this 490. I am short. And what I would be looking for a an exit point is right about here. Well, technically, I almost have to give it to 497, right? And that's kind of sucky. But I almost have to give it to 497 as the area that I would wait for to exit. And that's like that's a little bit, there's a few points. Some people may not want to do that, but I'm short here. But a close above and then bullish above, I would exit. But I would almost want to give it to 497. And then you have this dip here that brings us down through the 470, 75 area. And then we are sort of buying back up. So if we buy back up here, and if you're a bullish trader, like you don't short anything, that's some people are like that. What you want to watch for is, okay, we see these lower wicks here on this 485. So what you want to see is, do we buy back above the 485? And what do we do with this 490? This is the area that I'll be watching if you're bullish. If we pop above 490, I'm not saying we're going to squeeze in the 504, but I'll be watching for a break of this 490 area to see if the buyers do step in. And these lower wicks, these upper wicks here, where you saw the inability of the buyers to move this to the upside, and the seller saying, heck no. If that breaks and we hold, then I will be looking for the 504 area on Netflix. Earnings are the 20th of October, so this might be interesting. I'll be watching this. Even if we sell from here and we head back to the downside, I'll be watching to see if we can really advance below this 460, this 465-ish area here. I want to advance below this and see if we drop down into the 457s. The reason being, look at this, right? All across here, when you got to the 460s, the buyers have stepped in. You saw a slight advancement on, what's this, on the 21st. On the 21st, you saw a slight advancement, but that's in the pre-market, right? And so that was bought right back up. So what you want to see is, can we get an advancement if you're bearish below this 460 area, 468, upper 460s? Can we get a bearish advancement below that area? And then we have a chance in the 457s and then maybe into the 447s. So I'm giving you, like, I know I'm taking, a bit of time on going through these charts. So I'm going to keep it moving. I'm about to pick up the pace. But I think this is interesting looking at this rejection here. You want to see if we buy back through those 490s and if we can get some bullish candlestick formations that will, something like this, right? That will give us a squeeze into the 504s or 507s. So that's what's interesting on Netflix. NVDA. So NVIDIA, let's look at the 20th. All right, so that's right around here, 21st. Rejection of the 475, buy right back up into the 514s. So what we want to watch for on NVIDIA is, do we get advancement above this, right? So when we look up here into the 530s, look at all these upper wicks here. So you can see the rejection here, 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 here. You see all these rejections. So let's see if on this buy up, can we get through the 530s? And can we get a squeeze? So that'll be interesting on NVIDIA if that can happen. If we can't get up into these 530s and we come back down, I would be watching for another drop into the 475 area. We have the 200 coming up here, so that could be interesting. So let's see if we get an advancement up through the 530s. If not, watch and see if you see these upper wicks again and we don't get any buying action here, any bullish candlestick formations above this 531 area. Watch and see if we dip back through the 514s and maybe back into the 475s. So this is an interesting setup on NVIDIA, and definitely watch these upper candles here. You see these wicks, watch these levels if we push back up through there. And also what you want to see is, you definitely want this to advance above 514.80. You want the buyers to squeeze. And if we get above 514.80, then we can watch look for the 517 pop, and maybe you squeeze this area, 522s, and then squeeze up into the 530. You can watch this as it goes. But you want to pop up here and then squeeze into the 531s, 530s. And if you get long, for example, if I get long above 514, I'm out at 530. I mean, I'm going to be scaling up on the squeeze up into this. But if I only have one contract, as this begins to go up, I'm maybe looking to exit right around this 524-ish area, but I'll definitely be out by the 530s. If it pops over and holds and begins to look bullish above the 530s and squeeze, the 531 area and squeeze, then I'll be back in again and look to try to ride it up into these 555s. But I'll watch this flare up here right around this 543, and that would actually be an area that I'd be out if we're bullish above 531. And apologies again for sort of getting into the weeds on it, but watch these levels and see what happens. If we drop into the 475 and we roll through there, then watch for the 460s next, right? And then you watch this area here around the 454s and see if we can pop back over. But this is definitely an interesting setup that I see here on NVIDIA. We'll see if we're able to pop those levels that we mentioned, or if we sort of drop back down and we get below the 475s and then maybe the 460 area. We'll see. But that's what I'm watching for on NVIDIA. Facebook. Okay, so Facebook. We drop back here and we push back to here. Okay, so look at this little action here that happened in July, right around the end of July. We pushed up into the 254s, dropped back down to the 247s. Then it was sort of like a trampoline action here, and we took off to the upside, right to the 279 area. Okay, cool, pull back, nice little trampoline area. So we're right back around the 247s. And what we see here is that the sellers don't have the appetite, right? And the buyers are popping it back up to 254s, pull back again, test that area one more time. So what you want to watch for on this trampoline action, what I'll be watching for, hello, go back this way. All right, like this to be big so you can see what I see. Above this 254, look for a squeeze into the 261s if that happens. But you want to see if you can get an advancement above this 255-ish area. Look at that. You want to see if we can get above that. You do have a higher low, right? Now you need a higher high. And you need some volume to squeeze us up into the 261 area. If we don't get that, then we may get a retest of that 247. If 247 goes away, watch out for the 240s next. But what we can see here is that we have no bearish advancements below this 247, right? That the last, like, it's just been, look at that. Every time we get these 247s, the buyers are stepping in and sellers are jumping out, right? So here they tried. Buyers stepped in again. So they're holding this 247 level. Keep an eye on that on Facebook. This is the 4-hour chart again. And they're pushing it back into the 254s. If they pop the 254s, watch out. We may be popping up into the 261s and maybe higher. But definitely keep an eye on Facebook and watch these levels. 247s, they've been holding that bad boy. So let's see. So if we see an advancement like a bearish candlestick formation below this 247 at any point, that's going to be something to watch for a drop into the 240s and maybe lower, right? Because the buyers have been strong here. If they go away, that becomes a supply area, and this could be interesting. But as long as they're holding this 247, if we pop this 254 and we squeeze, watch for 261s. And let's start over to CMG. So CMG, we began the week right around this 1187 area, and nice little push to the upside. Pull back here. CMG is interesting. So what you want to see on CMG is that we hold this 1239.59 area, and then you want to squeeze back through 1270 and a pop of 1296 and a run up. That's what you want to see. We have earnings coming up. It looks to be around the 21st of October, give or take. So around 21st of October. So this could be a dip. We're about a little bit less than 30 days out. So this could be the dip, and they could buy us back through. Get the nice premium, that spike in the premium, or in the IV, I should say, that premium pops up. So let's see what happens here on CMG. This chart isn't amazing, but it's all right, right? You know, you saw this drop here. Look here on the 22nd, 23rd of July. Saw these upper wicks, rejection down. Same thing here from the 6th of August all the way through to the 10th of August. Look at those wicks. And then here, saw that push up. So clearly, when you came back down, this was going to be an area of contention where the buyers would be trying to reverse this, right? So what we want to see here is we want this 1239 to hold, and we want to push through 1296, and we want to squeeze. That's what you want to see if you're bullish. We'll see if this drops back down. If we drop back down to the 1187 area and the buyers do not step in, keep an eye out for the 1133s and maybe even the 1070s. But I don't know if they're going to let that happen prior to earnings. So we'll see how this shakes on CMG. But nice little setup here. So watch those levels. Let's see if we push the 1270s, 1296s, or if the 1239 doesn't hold, we drop to 1187s. Buyers don't hold that bad boy, watch 1133s. So Intel, so since the last earnings, they've been selling. Earnings coming up again on the 20th of October. So it's almost as if, so we dropped as low as this 47.27. And by the way, these aren't new lines. These lines are old, right? So we're watching this push from the 47.20s up to the 49s, reversal above the 51s. So it's almost, even though we see these little pops in here, it's almost as if we're just consolidating and going sideways, right? So now we're above the 49 16s. So me personally, I'd watch to see if we get back above the 51s. And they need to pop this above the 53s, actually. So you want to see, if I'm looking at this chart, sometimes you got to zoom out a bit to see. So, okay. The dip buy here at 47s made sense. Look at this, all this candle structure here. This is going back to 2019. Look at the candle structure here, all through this area here, here, here. So we could have dipped all the way down to the 43s, right? But you see these sells, you're seeing buyers step in from here, buyers step in. So buyers are stepping in here. So, okay, it's trampoline action. I ran it back through. So this might be interesting. But I'll watch for a pop over the 51s. And on the push, if we do push, I would watch for the 5260s, right? So if we get above 51, I'll be watching for us to advance above here, because last time we were here, they could not find buyers to get us to the 53.58s. So we have to see how that shakes out. But Intel, I'm more of a wait and see. You could definitely catch good setups intraday on Intel, and you'll get a few ticks, I'll say, and maybe 50 cents to $1 move on this on the intraday. But just be careful. I kind of don't like the range here. And, if it popped above 49.16s, right, and you got long, it's like, oh, wait 2 weeks. You kind of don't get the move that you want to see, because here is kind of above 2, and you're not really getting that big move that you want to see through the 51s and then run up an advancement into the 53s. So we'll see how this works out, but I'll be watching this. If you play the small range multiple contracts, or if you're in shares above the 49s, it looks like it's sort of bouncing up, and you're going to get to the 50, maybe $1 in here, maybe a squeeze to the 51s is possible. But Intel's kind of interesting, but I kind of want to wait to see on earnings which direction it takes, and if they buy this back up, and if we get a squeeze, or if it continues to sell and we get more downside. I'd have to pull out a higher time frame chart on Intel to see what the next levels are below this 47. But that's interesting. DLTR, and we were saying to watch for this area here, this 86 by 89 prior levels, and they kind of gave us a shakeout, fake out, right? Last time we were down here, we kind of reversed around the 85s, and they bought us back up. This time we went lower, and so you probably think that you see this is bearish below this level that we're going to roll. They bought us back up, right back into the 89 area. So what you want to watch for if you're trading this, nice little pop here, right? And nice little trend here. Everything looks great. We're curving. Maybe we're going to go squeeze into the 91s. Watch to see if we get bullish advancement above the 89.42. Nothing closed above that. So on the 4-hour, we do look bullish into this area. Let's see if we see continuation above. And then if we do, then we may have a squeeze to the 91.40s. But you want to see continuation. And look at this on the intraday. On the 4-hour, it looks good, right? But we do have a higher low here. But what you want to see is when the market opens, you want to see if we are strong above 89.42. And we'll see if we are. If not, and we begin to sell here, then watch out for the 86.70s, and then maybe we roll to the 84.15s. CI, I do like CI. Just to set up here. Okay, let me bring this in. Okay, so on CI, if we get back above this 163, then we may see a push and it reaches to the 173. And what we were watching for, look at this. We pulled into the 173s, no bearish advancement below. Back to the 173s, no bearish advancement below. Back to the 173s, no bearish advancement below. Back to the 173s, bearish advancement below. Back test, can't get back above it. Look at that. Drop right into the 163s. That's what we like to see. So here, what you want to see is, can we get advancement above the 163s? If not, then we might see a dip here down to the 157s and then maybe lower. So this is interesting. Remember, the president was making some statements about drug prices, I believe, and that could be what's impacting CI, right? So we'll see. They just had, yep. So we'll see, but keep an eye on this and watch this 163 level, right? If we can't get back above this, if we reject and sell 157, then we may be going down here around the 147. And now the 140s historically are areas, other than this time, where you've seen buyers step in. And if we get down here, I would wait to see if the buyers do step in and get us back to the upside. If you had done that here, you would have gotten the pop, but on the pull back down, they would have got us, right? Look at that. Nice little dip there. So we'll see what happens here. Looks like, yeah, look right here. 158. So they're trying. We'll see if we get back above the 163.50s and if we get a little bit of bullish candlestick action above this in the back test into this 173, or if we roll to the downside. But this was interesting about CI, right? The options are a little bit spready. So if you jump in there on the intraday, be careful. Goldman Sachs, interesting. We pull this. This is a little channel that goes back quite some time that I like to keep an eye on. And it did appear that we were going to dip below. Last time we were here, dip below this 189. They brought us back above, flare down. We'll see if we can get above the 197s or if we just roll and sell down to the 177s. I'm watching this closely. Headed into earnings in a few weeks. That will be interesting. We'll definitely see on Goldman Sachs, right? Because right now it's kind of a fluky time, a funky time where tech is kind of volatile, and a lot of times you can almost seesaw on the intraday, where if tech is buying is on the bid, where financials will be selling, right? So I want to see how this works out this upcoming week. If tech pushes up, do the financials, is there a little bit of weakness there? And a lot of people really get into the dollar and the currency prices. I really don't too much. I'm just watching these technical levels, and I'll sort of see how we react when we push these different lines, different areas, and play it intraday. So I'm gonna be watching this. If we get above 197s, and I'm watching for the 207s on Goldman Sachs. If we can't get above the 197s, but then we dip back down to 189.55, and we see bearish candlestick action below this 189.55, then I'm going to keep my eye open for the 177s, right? And that we bought up out of this area isn't, it's not weird. Look at this candlestick structure here. So we'll see what happens with Goldman Sachs, and if we get above the 197s or not, and if we're back below 189.55, what I'm watching for is the 177.90s. And then take a peek at the SPY. So SPY is interesting, right? This area is interesting. That was a top for us. Then pull back. Then we bought back into it. Look at this sideways action here. So this area, this 320, is an interesting area on the SPY. So for me, what am I going to watch for? You got to show me a little bit of strength up through 332.70, right? And then you'll make me a believer that we're going to pop a little bit higher, maybe 337s. But as long as we're in this area here, for me, we need to, on this wave, we need to push above the 331.37 area. If we don't get above that and we kind of curve here, then I'll be watching for a dip to the 315s. We'll see. But I'm watching these waves up. This down wave is heavy. This up wave, this down wave is a little bit lower. So not as much, not as heavy on the sell side here. So this up wave here, what I want to see is us break this. So we get a higher high on this wave. We'll see if that happens. That'll be interesting. If you like this video, please don't hesitate to tap the like button. And if you'd like to receive more content like this, subscribe to our channel, Power of Pivots on YouTube, where you can look forward to receiving more content from me and also content from Elisa as she shows you how she utilizes her power of pivot strategies to find great intraday, post, and pre-market entries on futures, penny stocks, and blue chips. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful week of trading, and please remain safe.